What if we have a repeat of so and so again? And then there is the next stage is that you create a kind of a data generation process, which is a model, which would sort of evaluate what could likely happen in that scenario, and then there's some outcome measures that you're evaluating. There's some limitations. One is that these frameworks tend to be linear frameworks. So when you give a 5% shock to a loan portfolio, then non-performing loans increase by 5%. There's some sort of linearity that's embedded. Generally speaking, because they use econometric techniques, which are fundamentally generally linear frameworks. Also, it's unidirectional, as you can see in the process. So you have no feedback. Once you shock a system, you assume that it's a set of dominoes, where one domino will hit another domino with another domino. But what happens in actual crisis is that it's not actually like a domino. It is more like an interactive game where there's an initial shock, there's a reaction to the shock, there's a processing of information, and there's uncertainty, and then the players react, and so it's a complex phenomenon. And of course, that hits the third point, which there are no behavioral relationships. Fundamentally, the reason why macroeconomics cannot address these issues is that the agents in these frameworks are assumed to have perfect foresight and be perfectly rational. This is fine if you're just trying to evaluate what your economy is going to be like a couple quarters ahead if things don't change much. But when you have periods of heightened uncertainty and a lot of exogenous shocks that nobody anticipated, these frameworks fail miserably. And of course, that needs no explanation now. So what's the framework? The framework intends to introduce endogenous behavior, introduce nonlinearities in the behavior of in the data generation process, and then even in the exposure or the risk measures to have endogenous behavior in terms of the risk measures, to have interaction between these risk measures as well as threshold effects. And then, most importantly, to have feedback between your outcomes and the behavior of the actors. So, generally speaking in the literature, when you have a measure like the probability of default, you assume that that is a final outcome. You've run your model and you have a PD, you have a probability of default, and it comes up at 5. But you assume that that result is static. People aren't going to look at it and say, oh my God, we're now at 5%, and then respond to that outcome. So, what is the theory? How many minutes do I have? 10 more minutes?
Well, we've gone past time, but just keep going. We'll try to finish just after 5.
5, okay. So we have 3 actors. You have a government agent, a credit rating agency, and banks. And these are the critical questions that they ask.